John, last week you spoke on intimate relationships and you used the metaphor table for two. It seems that would be fairly easy early on into the relationship. What would you say to those of us who've been married a little longer and maybe have lost that spark of setting the table for two?
So setting a table for two is a metaphor that I used, Tina, to talk about making a choice actually to enter into an intimate relationship. And so one of the things I would just say to anyone is that if you want to have an intimate relationship, it's a choice you have to make, and then you have to follow that choice out. So if you're struggling with your intimate relationship, you know, you've been married a long time, or maybe you haven't been married very long at all, but you're struggling with that, then the first thing I would say about that is you need to make sure that you're actually working at your intimate relationship. And that means looking at both the parts that make it up. We talked about that last week. So first of all, is this intimate relationship really unique? Am I protecting it and only setting that table for two, and it's only two people at the table, to follow the metaphor, and I'm not setting up any other tables for two anywhere else, right? And so one of the reasons we drift is because we don't keep the intimacy, the uniqueness of our relationship just with that one other person. And of course, there's a lot of temptation in our culture to drift, right? You got other people who aren't doing very well in their relationships. Maybe you're working there with them. You're not looking for someone else, but they are, and they peg you, and they start pursuing you. Or, just things in our culture broadly that kind of might lead us to stray down a path of losing the uniqueness and the intimacy with only that one other person. So that's the first thing. If you lose the uniqueness of the intimate relationship, then you're going to go your separate ways. It's no longer going to be just a table for two. The other thing is just very practical. Sometimes we stray because we actually don't relate to the other person. So we've all heard it said, oh, marriage is hard work. Well, it's not like you get up every day and I hate the fact that I'm married. What it means is that you have to work at a marriage just like you have to work at other things. And that means working at the relating part of the marriage. So relationship means doing life together. And you have to actually intentionally choose to do things together with your spouse in that intimate relationship. So I said last week, it means eating, playing, talking, working together, using your time, energy, and resources together. And you have to actually pursue those components that are involved in a relationship. Otherwise, it's very easy for two people to live in the same house, but to actually go different directions. So let me just illustrate it for how Linda and I do it. So Linda and I drink coffee together in the morning every morning. I mean, we have for like 20 years, 30 years. So we get up at 5 o'clock it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. We get up at 5, we make coffee, we sit down, we drink coffee together. We're sure that we do that together and we start our day together. Then we bookend it on the evening. We do happy hour together. Then we do dinner together. Usually I cook dinner for us, and we eat together. And then after dinner, we might actually go our separate ways for a while. But then we go to bed together, we get up together, we just do life together. The other day, a couple months ago, we actually got ready. We bought a small property in the Texas Hill Country, and so we made that decision together. And it was a significant decision for us. Initially, buying this property was kind of for me. And so we talked about all of it. We talked about the finances. What are we going to do with it? Why would we buy it? Do we like where it is? How are we going to use it in the future? And initially I was like, yeah, let's get it. And Linda was, I don't know. Then we switched. The longer we went on, I got cold feet about buying it. And Linda was like, no, I think we ought to do it. It's a good investment. And we went on. And finally, we came to make that decision together. And that was the important thing in an intimate relationship, is that Linda and I know that we're in this thing together. We don't text each other all day. Linda works a different place than I do. We rarely text during the day. We do a lot of things differently. Linda's a grandmother now. She loves scrapbooking her grandkids. She can get lost for hours in that. I like to hunt and play golf, and I go do that kind of stuff on my own. But we do a lot of different things together. We work at different jobs together. But we know that we're together and it's only a table for two. And so we're constantly doing things to actually work at that. I think another thing that happens to a lot of people over time is, I can imagine a lot of people just saying, well, I just don't feel it anymore, And I get that. But here's the thing. When you got married, you thought this person was the greatest person on the earth. That's why you married them. You thought, oh, is my life ever going to be good now that I'm with this person? And that explains why it's so easy to keep this table for two early on in the relationship. But then over time, you learn things about them that you didn't know, and you realize, oh, they're not quite as great as I thought, and I don't like this about them, and you start getting your list. So what I would say about that is, it's really important for us to keep a list of all the things that are good about the person that we're in an intimate relationship with, so that when we go through some of those hard times, and there always are, where we disagree and we fight a little bit and we're not together on a particular thing, that we remember all the reasons that we chose them and loved them in the first place. Another thing you could think of about that is if you weren't in this intimate relationship with this other person, and you said, I'm not doing that anymore, would someone else be happy to just sweep in and take your partner in your place? Say, oh man, I'm glad he's available. Wow, I'm glad she's available. Well, if somebody else would probably want him, maybe you ought to want him too. And so what I often say to people who come and see me, especially to the guys, maybe I say it to the ladies as well, but especially to the guys, is once I get to know their wife and see them and all that, I'll often tell them, dude, you're not going to do better than this. And so just helping people understand that this person has a lot of potential, and you saw that in them when you first met. Go back and find that again. And that will affect all the levels of intimacy as well. Then another thing I would say is just related to how your story affects intimate relationships, is in an intimate relationship, what we're doing is we're rewriting a mathematical equation. 1 + 1 = 2. But that's not true in an intimate relationship. 1 + 1 = 1. And that means that the two people that are trying to make this intimate relationship, they need to know themselves and the person that they're actually getting into the relationship with. And what I have found over a number of years now of working with people, counseling with marriages and things, is that when they get together, neither person really knows themselves. They don't know who they are, how they got to where they are in life, why they do the things they do. So they don't understand themselves, and they sure don't understand the person they're marrying, and so they come together just hoping that it will work. And usually we do that because of the chemistry that we have between ourselves early on. And so it's really important for people to look at their story, understand themselves, tell their stories to one another, and be sure that we can actually, get along with each other before we actually set that table for two. That's a part of what should happen when you're setting up the table for two initially, is really coming to know the other person. And so I think that's where the Istoria process really does help people do that.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thanks,
your
Steve.
time.